Hey everyone, Summer here with AstariaSen, and we are going to be doing a little walkthrough review of the Revelations Tarot by Zach Wong, I believe. There's a little bit of a glare because of the area I'm in. Sorry about that. Hopefully it doesn't get too distracting. The cards are decently glossy, so that could cause some interference, but I'll do my best not to let it. So the book is decent. It's a decent sized book. Inside, it's very simple, simplistic. There's not really a whole lot going on in this book. There is, but there isn't. So he doesn't spend a lot of time doing like a big introduction or what the book's about. He does a preface, and then he starts immediately talking about the major arcana. And I wanted to just read this paragraph right here to talk about the deck. The cards are drawn in a style similar to stained glass. Iconic images represent a lesson to be learned, a being to be studied, or a situation. Each character in the major arcana wears a mask over his or her face, which is depicted by lines that break each face down into sections. The mask is merely a representation of a human relation, similar to that of the mythical gods who stand in human form amongst us, to ease our comprehension of the messages they deliver. So the minor arcana doesn't have this kind of like introductory part, but the major arcana does. And then there's a good amount, like 1, 2, and 3 pages. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So the major arcana has about 3 pages. You get the High Priestess, like this one, it has a little saying right here. It talks about the High Priestess, it talks about the reversed. And then it talks about the symbolism within the card, which I do like about this deck. It's one of my favorite parts about this deck, actually. But then, like, you come to the Devil card. Now, not all of them are like this, but this follows the RWS system quite heavily for the most part. But like here, when he talks about the Devil card, he's talking specifically about physical representation of the Devil card, the physical aspects, the lustful aspects, the too much money kind of stuff. He doesn't even hardly touch at all on the mental stuff. So I was kind of disappointed in that. And then the minor arcana has, here's the minor arcana. It has a little thing, but it tells you about the different suits in this one instead. And then what's really cool about this part is that each number of the suits has its own theme. So aces, it gives a theme for each number in the whole, in all the suits. And then it talks about them. So like Ace of Cups has like a page, they're like almost 2 pages. Some of them two and a half, not quite 3. So there's a decent amount even on the minor arcana. And then you come back here to the back of the book, and you have some spreads. That is basically the entire book. That's it. That's all there is. So I like the simplicity of the book and how right to the point it kind of is, but at the same time, some of the text in it I don't generally agree with perfectly. All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick, well, not a quick, but like a mostly quick walkthrough of the deck. These are the major arcana, and they're reversible. So something to consider is, so like the Fool, you can see him up right here, but if you turn him around in his reversed form, it's something different. So in this form, he seems happy, kind of go-lucky, kind of getting ready to go off that cliff. There's a baby in the middle, so almost like this newborn energy, this newness energy coming about, that's coming up towards him. Not quite awake, not quite wide open, but it's getting ready to be. It's blossoming, okay? You turn it upside down, and you have this guy that's upside down back here. There's a bunch of like paper cutout people back in the back. And then he is not quite interested in jumping off. He's kind of leaning away from the jumping off point, like he almost dipped his toe in it, but isn't sure that it's going to be okay, like there's some worry involved. So each card, including the minor arcana, has this double aspect. I'm not going to go and show you every single double aspect. I just wanted you to be aware that it is there. So let's get to looking at these cards. I think I will go ahead and do the major arcana real quick with you. Let's see. You can see the mask, the lines that he was talking about for the mask in these. So that is something to consider when you're reading the major arcana. All right, so let's do a quick flip through. There is the Fool and the Magician, High Priestess. The coloring is beautiful, like the general coloring of the art is very beautiful. The Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, Chariot, Strength, which I do like Strength. There's even some lines playing up in here in the Strength, which is kind of cool. The Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, Hanged Man. The Hanged Man one I think is interesting because he's technically upright, but he's upside down at the same time. So the upright Hanged Man would be him in this form, and the reversal one would be this one. So that's interesting to consider when you're reading the Hanged Man in this one, is it's almost opposite of all the other cards. Death, I do like Death. There's definitely this birth aspect that's coming up from it, which is interesting. Temperance, the Devil, Tower. And this tower is kind of cool, like you can see it all kind of like falling apart. It's not all quite together. You still have the outside force that's like attacking it. It still kind of has that tower aspect to it. The reversal, the upside down part, is way different. It's almost chaotic in a way. Like it just kind of just tornadoed apart somehow, but not the way that it did upright. I don't even know how to explain the reversal of that. The Star, which is very beautiful. The Moon. Now this one's one of my favorite cards in the whole deck. I really, really like how it has fairies in it. I mean, come on, how could I not like the Moon, right? And then the reversal is very water-based, emotional-based, and more like mermaid people. So I think that is interesting about this card too. Here's the Sun, Judgment, and the World. So really interesting aspects of this card. Now, when I do the minor arcana, I'm going to be doing them all like right here. I'm doing each deck, or sorry, each stack. So that's why I'm a little bit further away with these, is because I want you to see them side by side, so you can kind of get the idea of these images and how they kind of flow together. Ace through King. So he uses Ace, not 1. All right. So we have Wands, Swords, Cups, and Pentacles. Now I'm just going to go ahead and just flip them over so you can kind of see them all together, okay? So there's the Aces, and now we have the 2s. So you have a balance here in about all of them. Like this is probably the most balanced one, this one, and this one, which is interesting. And of course you have the reversal parts of them as well, which I'm not going to sit and go through every single reversal with you guys. That would make this a very, very, very long video. All right, so here's 3s. You got the 3 of Wands. They're all coming together, creating. Then you have the 3 of Swords. A little less of like people coming together in more of a singularity. 3 of Cups has that aspect of celebration, and the 3 of Pentacles definitely has that work aspect going with it, with the hammer and that pentacle there. All right. Then 4. I can't even with the 4 of Wands. Like the 4 of Wands doesn't even like commute well for me. I I don't think this is my favorite representation of the Four of Wands. The Four of Swords I like that square boxy feel that's in this one. The Four of Cups I really feel like is very emotional. There's a lot of, I mean, cups are emotion anyways, but there's a lot of emotion going on even in the coloring of this card. And then the Four of Pentacles. All right, Five of Wands. They're all pretty good. I think this one's my favorite. Five of Wands on this side over here. Maybe because of the purple. The art is beautiful. It really, really is beautiful. I've had a hard time reading with this deck. I don't read well intuitively with it. And I don't necessarily agree with everything in the book, as I told you with the Devil card. So we have the Six of Wands, Six of Swords, Six of Cups, and Six of Pentacles, which I think are all pretty good representations, honestly. All right, here's our sevens. This one is probably a cool seven. I just like the look on his face in this one. There's definitely that Seven of Swords feel here, for sure. And then we have eights, and I always equate eights with movement, and I do feel like movement is either there or restricted somehow in these cards. Like that movement is definitely a movement up. This one's more of a restricted movement. This one's a general movement, and this one here is a work-related, like trying to get stuff done kind of movement. All right, and then we're on to nines. Yeah, I think most of these represent nines fairly well. Of all the nines, I think I like this one the most. And of course, he is very RWS based. So this card has a really good RWS representation of Pentacles. He does talk about in this deck how he couldn't find a deck that represented everything that he wanted personally. So that's why he made this deck, was so that it would represent what he wanted in a tarot deck, as well as bringing all the tarot aspects to it, which you could read more about in the book if you get this deck. So here's the tens. The tens I always see as more of like a sense of completion. I don't know that I feel like the completion is right here in the middle of this card, right here. Like if the things have all come together and they come together in a good way. The completion in this one is a little awkward to me. I don't think this is my favorite card in this particular art style. It kind of reminds me of people not having skin, which is not something I'm a fan of. The Ten of Cups, definitely a good card that I enjoy. And the Ten of Pentacles, again, follows that RWS fairly well. I feel like this deck has a better handle on Pentacles and the physical rather than emotional, honestly. But it is supposed to be a mental deck to reach that mental clarity more. At least that's what he was talking about. So maybe that physical comes in for him. So these are the pages. So let's see. I think out of all of these, I definitely like this page the most, the Little Mermaid pages, with the cup coming up, and then this one's interesting. Like if you look at the reversed meaning on this one, it's almost like a cover, like a secret. So I think that's kind of cool how he did that. All right, and the next one are the Knights. They all look the same to me. The coloring is all pretty much the same. I wasn't expecting that because they've been so different previously. So it's really interesting to see them all kind of like one color blending together like this. Yeah, so this one's a dragon. This one's kind of like a Pegasus. I think that's a Pegasus. These are just mermaids, and this one is, I think it's a dragon as well, or a form of a dragon horse or snake horse kind of thing. So that's interesting. But the yellows, green, or the yellows, oranges, and reds that have fire in all of the Knights. It's interesting that he chose that color scheme. Because see, this one doesn't have that same kind of sameness. Like none of the other cards have that. So then here's the Queens. I do like the Queens. I think they're all very striking. This one is definitely very materialistic based, even in the drawings. You can definitely see the difference in the way that he drew faces on the cards and how those faces and those lines actually represent something in the cards, which means that if you read with these cards, you have to pay attention to all the little lines, all the little ones even. Yeah, and then here's the kings, which again, good representation. They're all sitting on their thrones. That one has a crown. This one has a different kind of crown for the swords. His crown is more like his hair, and his crown is like a crown, like a smaller kind of crown that goes around just the bottom part of your head. So all good representations. I think they still give that masculine energy. They still give all the stuff they're supposed to for king energy. There's a lot of orange or golds in this, which I think might be a representation of that money aspect, that physical money aspect that we see. So yeah, so that's the Revelations Tarot. So if you are interested, go ahead and pick up the deck. I will leave a link of it in the descriptions. Thank you guys so much for watching.